Can you help to open for Gibin, please?
Mr. Yusa, could you unmute for Chibin?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's unmute right now for Gibin.
I'm a second year student. I'm very happy to introduce today's presenter because I was her student for 5 years, last 5 years, and it's my pleasure to invite her, Dr. Annie George. I just want to introduce her by one of the PPT. Yeah, BD in mathematics, B.Ed in mathematics, and B.
Um, Pak Yusak?
Yeah.
Yeah, due to the some problem, so Jibin will use my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry for the disturbance. She did her B.Ed in Kannamula Seminary, and she did her MTH in Christian Education in United Theological Seminary, that is in Bangalore, and also she did her PhD in Biola University. And I'm so much happy to invite her and hear from her paper and also learn more from her. And this time I give to Professor Annie George, and let's welcome her together. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Jibin, for your kind words. And I'm so happy to be with all of you, especially Yusuf, whom we know for a couple of years, and to be here with all of you to present papers. I was listening in the morning to the two presenters, and I believe that not only me, others were also enriched by the discussion. Today, my topic is on the role of environment of discipline in the spiritual formation of children. The child theology movement has now, as we see, placed children in our midst. They showed us, or it showed us, how Jesus put children in our midst to teach about the truths of the kingdom of God. If children have such profound lessons to teach us, then topics related to spiritual formation of children need to be in the discussion in our scholarly. So today, that's why I chose this topic, role of environment of discipline in the spiritual formation of children. We will begin with looking at the key terms, discipline and spiritual formation. And then we will look at one particular passage for the gospel where Jesus accepted children, that's from Matthew. And then we will look at two empirical studies which are related to spiritual formation of children and the environment. And thus, I would like to conclude my discussion. So to begin with, we see the Bible teaches the parents and faith community have a responsibility to discipline children, thus preserve the covenant connectedness with God throughout the generation. It gives some reference to the nature of environment in which this discipline happens, this nurture happens. So, empirical studies have shed light to this aspect of the context of home and educational institution. So what is discipline? What is discipline? We know the Hebrew and Greek words used to describe discipline, yasar, muzar, paidio, idea, and the Latin word disciplina. NIV translate this Hebrew and Greek words as discipline, correction, and some cases as instruction and training. And the AV, authorized version, translate these words as chastening and nurture and be formed. So from the use of Greek words, paidia and paidia, and the Hebrew words yazar and muzar, we see that nurturing, chastening children was for the moral development and the character formation of them. The Latin word, we see the meaning is to teach, to guide, and to instruct. However, it is seen that this word in Latin is linked with not only to teach and guide, but also with control and punishment, which now includes timeout, withdrawing twice of favorite things, and also verbal and physical correction. So in the Old Testament, if you look at the word from the discussion, the discipline has a holistic understanding, which includes instruction, training, firm guidance through correction, punishment, and reprimanding. So this is for the educational purpose, the formation of character, and also intellectual formation to acquire wisdom, knowledge, and discernment. Now, what about spiritual formation? Now we know that spirituality is defined as a process of growing in awareness to God, self, and others, and also acting upon that knowledge. The research of Hay and Ney, which is very popular and very accepted regarding children's spirituality, they talk about relational consciousness, which involves child's relationship with self, others, the world, and God. So in Judeo-Christian faith, we see love of God and loving neighbor is very significant. So that's the goal of spiritual formation when we talk about is with children or adults is maturing faith and deepening relationship with God through Jesus Christ and also towards others and at the same time the world and ourselves. So what's the perspective of children then in the Bible? Scripture, especially the Old Testament, we see children are gifts of God to the family and also to the community. As we see, the word children is used to denote God's relationship with Israel. The same word is used to denote the same word which we say about our children, the relationship between parents and children. And these parents and the faith community are instructed them to teach children the covenant, the law, and how to do what is just and right. In the Gospels, Jesus presented radical teaching on children. We see from various passages in Matthew, Mark, we see that children are co-recipients of the reign of God, even though they are subordinates to adults. Children are models of entering the reign of God. Welcoming children in Jesus' name welcomes God. Children know the divine secrets, even though they are young. And the gospel also shows us that parents have a responsibility to nurture children, train and instruct children in the Lord. In the Greco-Roman world, in the 1st century AD, we see that parents loved children. They took pleasure in children. But childhood was seen as a state of immaturity, which they have to outgrow. Aristotle and later John Locke and Francis Bacon compared children with blank slate. And then now we see the more accepted view of children is they are born with innate knowledge, which was first proposed by Plato, however, not to negate the importance of training and instruction of children. Now, what about discipline? How do you see discipline in the Old Testament? The Old Testament, we see that God is the instructor and teacher. He gives instruction and teaching through warnings and also through direct instruction and also harsh obedience. God disciplines his children. This denotes the affirmative nature of discipline. Now, in Proverbs, we see the same thing. So the theological basis for the discipline of God is found in the covenant relationship between Yahweh and his people. Now, regarding the parental responsibility of educating children and disciplining children, it was a religious duty. Fathers disciplined their children, not to quench their spirit, but to see the formation of divine character in them. So fathers did so through correction, instruction, and discipline, and even the use of rod that we see in many times in Proverbs. So, in literature, we see the duty of the parents to instruct and discipline children. The several verses in the Proverbs on parental discipline comes under the overarching purpose of the book to get wisdom at any cost, and that cost is often high. Towards this goal, punishment using the rod is justified in this book. As we said before, Proverbs chapter 3, 11 to 12, we see, my son, do not despise Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as the father, son he delights in. This seems to be the basis of several pieces of advice given to the three fathers in this book to use the use of correct rod of correction in steadfastly discipline their children. There are several verses which I don't want to read, but Proverbs 13:24, Proverbs 23:13 to 14, Proverbs 22:15, Proverbs 29:15, Proverbs 27:17. And if we look at all this verse, we see that parents, based on this verse, parents often saw Proverbs 22:6 as a promise for those who discipline their children, even using the rod, train up their child in the way he should go, and he will not turn from it. It's clear that the rod and the physical punishment for discipline is not excluded or condemned in the Proverbs along with the instruction, the verbal instruction. However, if you look at Proverbs 17:10, a rebuke goes deeper into a man's understanding than 100 blows into a fool. Shows the verbal correction outweighs the rod in bringing correction. The books of the Bible were written in a time, including Proverbs, were written in a time where severe corporal punishment was practiced. Yet, there are relatively few passages pertaining to physical discipline. They belong to their historical context. So we need to continuously ask whether they are to be followed today as without any dissent. What about discipline in the intertestamental period? Philo affirmed that personality is formed under discipline and instruction. Paideia for Jews is a staff which serves both support and to correct. This concept is firmly combined with discipline and chastisement. Josephus also approved parental discipline in form of so Philo and Josephus' idea implies education with discipline and is one of the concepts that bridge the law and the Greek culture. Now, what about in the New Testament? The New Testament, the concept of education through discipline is different from the Greek concept of education and the rabbinic teaching on education. The Greek concept of education is often an ideal towards an ideal, and rabbinic teaching points to suffering as a result of chastising and have a power to correct. In Greco-Roman world and Judaism, fathers are ultimately responsible for religious upbringing for their children. In a family, the status of true sons is recognized by the fact that father educates and disciplines his children. The New Testament establishes the validity of parental discipline and instruction in nurturing children based on the discipline of God in instructing and disciplining his people. In the New Testament gives no direct advice regarding the use of rod in discipling children. However, the writer of Hebrews quote Proverbs 3, 11 and 12 to remind his reader that our heavenly fathers disciplined us, our human fathers disciplined us as they saw fit, and we accepted such discipline and respected their right to do so. Even though he did not use the word rod in these verses, the word paidias and its derivatives of this, which is translated as discipline in verse 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11, can include physical punishment towards mature behavior. At the same time, the writer acknowledged that our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best, which may indicate that they can err compared to the perfect discipline of the Heavenly Father. In Paul's letters to Ephesians and Colossians, we see that children are exhorted to obey their parents in the Lord, and fathers are exhorted not to exasperate children, instead bring them in the training and instruction of the Lord. Even the phrase training and instruction indicate clear boundaries and firmness in nourishing children. The basis of parental authority, this is divinely appointed, which transcends biological rights. However, the phrase of the Lord indicates limitation to the parental authority, and Paul presents the relationship between children and parents as subject to the Lord. This is different from Roman practices where fathers had absolute legal power over their children. Roman fathers were often inflicted harsh punishment on children to the extent that Greeks considered Romans as cruel and harsh. Even Hellenistic Jews saw parents as a superior class to their inferior children. Yet the New Testament presents the purpose of filial authority as to communicate the truth of God through their words, examples, action. So Paul addresses the children to obey and honor their parents in the Lord. Thus, the care and education of children are placed in the context of filial honor and parents' ambassador role. Thus, the New Testament gives a balanced and tender rearing of children with firm discipline when necessary. This understanding of children and discipline has played a dominant role in shaping Christian thought of training and instruction of children. Now let's look at the one passage from the Synoptic Gospel where Jesus shows see how Jesus accepts children regardless the disciples attempt to block them, which shows that was the attitude of elders then, but he is correcting the attitude of elders now in the process of nurturing their connectedness with God and others, or in other words, the spiritual formation of children. Now, Mark 10, 30 to 16, we see that Jesus accepting children. Now, Mark 10, 30 to 16 shows kingdom values includes a willingness to accept children as recipients of the kingdom. Such an acceptance of children is necessary for all who nurture the spirituality of children, which includes parents, teachers, Sunday school teachers, pastors, and other caring adults in the community. In the text, disciples have not grasped their master's tender heart for children and their value in the kingdom, means children's value in the kingdom. By portraying Jesus as one who welcomes children and blesses them, the Synoptic Gospel presents Jesus as the one who exemplifies the paradoxical values of the kingdom to his disciples then and now. Now, this particular passage has influenced the baptismal liturgies, the practice of baptizing children, and giving communion to children. The order of this particular passage in this chapter challenges the values and attitudes of the disciples who were anticipating their entry to the kingdom of God. After the discussion of divorce, then children, and then possessions, Mark includes the explicit and implicit prediction of the crucifixion. Now, when you come to the passage, we see that disciples rebuked those who brought children to Jesus. Unlike Matthew and Luke, Mark explains the purpose of bringing the children to Jesus was to lay hands and pray, which implied a typical Jewish blessing. Touch of blessing, perhaps even healing. The Synoptic Gospels portray the unwelcoming attitude of the disciples to children, even though they are silent about the reason. There can be various reasons. They saw it as a distraction and a disruption, an interruption to their journey, and maybe a bother to Jesus. The low status of children in society implied that children are unimportant, or as Jews, they may be following the concern of rabbis. A sage should not bother with children. Seeing the response of Jesus, Jesus became indignant and welcomed the children. The gospel writer stressed Jesus' conversation with the disciples in various ways. A use of the imperative form of the verb, let them come, do not stop. He uses both positive and negative commands. And Mark omits the conjunction and. Here, this explains the reason why children should be welcomed to come to him. Children have a share in the kingdom of God. It belongs to the insignificant ones who are important to Jesus. So Jesus continues his warning in the next phrase. Children's reception of the kingdom is a model for adult non-disciples. Nowhere in Jewish literature are children presented as model for adults. And in the Hellenistic setting, comparison with children are highly insulting. Jews regard children as too young to take the yoke of the kingdom. It just points to them as examples for those who receive the kingdom by coming to him in faith. Jesus grants the request of the people who brought it to them. This verse is significant because Jesus exemplified his teaching to his disciples. Through visual demonstration of teaching, he showed that children are accepted, valued in the kingdom. Taking them in his arms, Jesus not only granted the request of the people, but also embraced the children. We see the tenderness of Jesus in the context of Hellenistic society in the first century. Greco-Roman word, as we said before, when fathers the power of life and death for their children. Here, Mark's suggested audience is likely to see the contrast between Jesus' attitude towards children and such pagan practices. Touching a child was a tangible expression of the unconditional love for those whom society has rejected. Even though Jewish leaders blessed children on the day of the atonement, blessing children by taking them in their arms was beyond what leaders did. His action, a call to discipleship and obedience to the will of God. Now, if you look at this, a theological summary of what we have said so far of disciplining children. The focus on Jesus' acceptance of him shows that while obeying Lord's mandate to discipline children towards spiritual formation, all disciples of Jesus are to value children as the recipients of the kingdom of God. Children are ignorant and in need of strict discipline, yet they can experience connectedness with God. So the theological basis for the earthly father's discipline over his children is in the covenant, as father bears the image of the covenant God. God, as the instructor and teacher, uses all form of discipline, instruction, training, firm discipline to reprimanding, correction, punishing, to bring his people to the covenant connectedness with him and others. He charges people to impress this covenantal connectedness to the next generation. Thus, discipline towards spiritual formation is God's plan for his people. Christians in general focus on spiritual formation of children, yet we commonly see adults as recipients of the kingdom. We may not value children as the recipients of the kingdom or their struggles from that perspective. Developmentally, children are small, inexperienced, powerless. They may not be able to understand God's word as adults. But in the scripture passage we discussed, we said Jesus demonstrated their acceptance as members of the kingdom and placed them as models for other adults. The fact that Jesus wanted them to come to him, unlike the rabbis, he embraced them before he blessed them, in the value he places on them as the recipients of the kingdom. The call to follow him is not only involving discipling children, but also by valuing children as he did. The understanding of this aspect of discipleship need to grow out to a healthy understanding of how Christ invited them and portrayed the value through his word and actions. When we value children as the recipients of the kingdom, it influences the environment in which we discipline our children. Now let's look at two empirical studies which was done by in Western context. One was in Catholic school, the other was in secular school in New Zealand. This was about exploration of teens' understanding of their own spirituality and children's spirituality and the influence on children's spiritual life in the school setting. The spirituality is a mandated curriculum in New Zealand school, and teachers develop conceptual and pedagogical knowledge of spirituality. Both studies support the need of supportive classroom environment in order to enable spiritual formation in children. And the second research indicates some distinctive aspects of the classroom curriculum to foster spirituality. Let's look at the first empirical study that was done in a Catholic school. This study focused on how teachers within the religious context conceptualize and respond to children's spirituality. There were 10 Catholic teachers were the participants of this. These schools nurtured the spirituality of children from a Catholic framework, and they are from urban and rural context. The teachers had 9 to 20 years of experience, and 9 teachers taught 5 to 13-year-old children, and 1 taught 9 to 20-year-old children with both genders. The participants include both male and female. Now, they found that even though teachers believed that religious understanding is only one of the ways of being spiritual, relationship between spirituality and religion was emphasized in the discussion. They recognized the advantages of religious framework when working with children. Teachers understood relationship as the core of spirituality, and this influenced their personal spirituality. Their relationship with God was the foundation of their beliefs and values, which influence their identity and the relationship with others and themselves and their environment. Spirituality and spiritual qualities are expressed and developed through this relationship. As teachers, they saw their relationship with their students as very significant. They see themselves as spiritual role models. They need opportunities to nurture their own spiritual lives, to have spirituality as the core of the teacher-student relationship. They demonstrated their own spiritual qualities and behaviors to create a classroom climate in which spirituality of children is nurtured. They recognize and respond to children's spirituality in all areas of curriculum and through their actions and words. There are different ways to respond to children's spiritual expression, yet showing respect and listening to them at the spiritual level are the most effective. Now, what about the second research? The second research, 8 female teachers and 1 male teacher taught 5 to 12-year-old children represented the participants. With respect to religious affiliation, 6 were Christians, 3 were agnostics, and from different ethnic background in New Zealand. This was qualitative research. So 3 themes related to the climate of the classroom and see how children's spirituality can be developed in secular classroom. Classroom is characterized as non-judgmental, non-self-conscious, a community of spiritual discourse is encouraged, and deeply meaningful activities and events occur that initiate a transcendental experience. Non-judgmental classroom refers to the climate of accepting and encouraging actions that arose from spiritual motives, giving opportunities for students to include topics and ideas from the lives of students in the curriculum that are spiritual in nature, enable the creation of community of spiritual discourse. The teachers note the importance of connectedness, again, relationship as a pervasive dimension in spirituality, important dimensions of spirituality, connectedness with one or some of the following: God and sisters, nature, world, one another, and deep, meaningful activities. Christian teachers highlighted the connectedness with God. Even though spiritual well-being is mentioned in New Zealand curriculum, teachers noted that moments for spiritual development could not often be predicted or necessarily planned. The best spiritual curriculum, according to teachers, is grounded in the classroom climate and within the teacher who conducts their practice form of basic connectedness. Now, what is the significance of this research, the topic of our discussion? This research studies do not focus on discipline, but the environment of nurture environment to nurture the spirituality of children. The view of spirituality as connectedness is biblical, as we have seen in the definition of spiritual formation in our paper before. The different dimensions of connectedness described are as the same: connectedness to God, ourselves, others, and nature. Even though one research focused on Catholic schools and other on secular schools, both identified the importance of the climate in nurturing spirituality. They identified certain characteristics conducive to the nurture, which depict the importance of the environment: non-judgmental, affirming, encouraging, and one that shows respect, listening to children at a spiritual level. Also, both studies show the significance of nurturing the spirituality of teachers so that they can nurture children's spirituality. So, what can we learn from this as a conclusion? Discipling children towards connectedness to God, others, is not an option for parents and faith community. The Bible, the Judeo-Christian tradition have encouraged this effort informally and formally in their homes, in synagogue, schools, and in other formal agencies, now in church through various activities. Thus, Judeo-Christian faith grasps the heart of God to see that each generation is to be faithful to the covenant. Jesus' unparalleled acceptance of children has presented his followers with a glimpse of God's heart for children. Jesus not only welcomed children, but also embraced them before blessing them. He showed them that children are co-recipients of the kingdom and as models for other believers. This shed light on the fact that all disciples of Christ are to value children as the recipients of the kingdom, and we are to value the spirituality of children. This is implication on the kind of supportive environment of nurture. The discussion on the empirical study show the significance of the environment in nurturing spirituality of children. Teachers and parents are aware of the environment of children's spiritual lives to the extent that they voice how their spirituality, they voice how their spirituality influence children's spirituality and environment. Thus, we see that children are to be disciplined. A holistic pattern that we see in the Bible has to be followed. However, the environment has to be such that we value children as the recipients of the kingdom, and we value children, the spirituality of the children. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Professor, for the paper. It was a wonderful paper. It was on disciplining the children and bringing them into a spiritual formation. And if anyone have questions, this is the time for questions. You can ask questions. Everyone are free to ask questions. Okay, I have a question. I think I can ask one first, then I think rest of the people can ask later. One of my question is, Professor, it's like I'm teaching in one of the kids church, and for me, the kids are very small that I am unable to teach them the doctrines like incarnation or salvation. Even I'm from India and I am in Taiwan now, and language is one of the problem for me. The second is I want to teach them or give them a foundation, a proper foundation in doctrines, but it is difficult for me to teach the incarnation concept or salvation concept. When we speak about spiritual formation, these doctrines also come inside this type of topic. So how can we, how we make the thickness but less thickness and dilute it and teach to the children?
Thank you, Jibin. Let me ask you, what's the age of your children?
Yeah, it's like 7 to 13.
So it's not like diluting. I understood that simplifying, maybe that's what you meant, simplifying. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, now if you look at, we haven't touched about the cognitive development of our children. I'm sure you studied that in BD days, in BD.
Yeah.
So the age appropriate, the teachers also, or parents and the faith community can use age appropriate words when you discuss or teach with children. Okay, that is the current understanding. But at the same time, we see that in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy chapter 31, when priests were asked to read the law, it was not only to the adult community, but also to children. So the law means, as we understood right now, the first 5 books of the Bible. And in certain passages in Exodus, Joshua, and Deuteronomy, we see that when your children ask, what is the meaning of this? Then tell them the Exodus story. Okay, so the exact words are also given there. Now, that means as us teachers, we have to use simple words, the words that they can understand to our children. But at the same time, we look at the verses that I just said, in Deuteronomy and Exodus and Joshua. There is something that goes beyond beyond us in our classroom, that God Himself is a teacher to them, describing what who is to them. Okay. Now, when with the incarnation, we can use simple stories to help them to understand why Jesus came to earth. Okay, and they may not be able to understand the term salvation that we use for born again experience, but maybe we can, as we said, we can use the word relationship or connectedness as we described now.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Yeah. Anyone have any question? I saw a chat box. Oh, it's just a thank you. You can type any questions in your chat box also. Yeah, then I think I can ask a second question this time. It's like, Professor, you were saying about Greek Roman culture, they were a little bit harsh in punishment and all. So in Old Testament also, in Proverbs also, we can see there are verses related to disciplining a child is related to punishment. Punishment can lead them to discipline a child. But when we see about Jesus saying and all, Jesus is always showing love, and through the love God want to, or Jesus want to discipline their children, God's children. So how can we relate both these things? Do we need to punish our children to discipline them, or do we need to show love towards them?
In our discussion, we saw that the harsh treatment by the in the Greco-Roman world, and also we saw that the books of the Old Testament, especially Proverbs, was written in the time that this using of the rod for correction was used. So we see the reflection of the context in the book. However, if we look at the New Testament, we see a balanced view. Now we have Ephesians talking about do not embitter or do not discourage your children, Ephesians and Colossians. At the same time, in the Hebrews chapter 12, we see the word paideia that is used there. I was able to research and see that it can include physical punishment for moral correction or maturing behavior. So we see a balanced view in the New Testament. The the discipline is in the context of love. But even when you use verbal instruction or using physical correction, it has to be in such a way that we do not discourage our children or embitter our children. So whenever there is abuse, we see that we are not disciplining our children in the authority that God has given us, training them in the Lord. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. So that shows that filial authority always comes under the authority of God. So whenever as parents, we step beyond that authority, then we really need to see that are we fulfilling the ambassador role that God has given us. So wherever there is such abuse, not only physical abuse, but also verbal abuse, we may not be using the rod, but we are correcting with words, but harsh words. Then also we are being beyond what God, the limits that God has given us. So always we as parents or as teachers, we see that our authority comes under the authority of God to discipline our children.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. I think someone have a question, but they cannot unmute it.
Pak Yusuf, could you unmute the one who Yoke? Is it Yoke? She or he have a question.
Thank you so much. Annie Source, Mrs. Exactly what I mean, Dariana was talking. But I have the question, the special question for the Annie about the reward and punishment. All the children, I don't know what kind is the India, but all the children for in the church and in the society, I think there is the no special, but the number, but the society number 2 maybe, yeah, average like that, yeah. So I have feel and I have heart to the children, so I teaching about the religious education for the children, yeah. I ask my question, what's the meaning for you, the punishment and the reward for the children? Because I'm very deeply moved with your explanation to maybe 13 minutes you explain, and I feel it's very deeply moved to my heart in. So I just the last I would like say like that. What's kind the punishment and reward between the society church and the society national maybe. I was reading to the India, so many children have not homeless here, and have not love because there's parents and maybe the government is not have attention for them. So how the church is in India seeing to them like that? I'm sorry, maybe my.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you have 2 questions. One is about reward and punishment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other one is what church is doing in India to help the children. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, 2 questions. See, the reward and punishment.
Maybe have different Indonesia and India, special from church forward to the children. But
Okay.
if the Matthew 80, verse 1 until the 40 is the children by the Christ, by the Jesus, there is the number one. Yeah. Yeah. At the time, the disciple came to Jesus and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Jesus called a little child and had him stand among them. This is the important for me. And he said, I tell you the truth. Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. How do you think about it? Thank you.
Yeah, I have mentioned that in briefly how Jesus depicted the value of children in the Gospels. One of the passage was Matthew chapter 18. Yeah. So what in this discussion, I just looked at one passage showing that Jesus saw children as recipients of the kingdom and how he embraced children, which was beyond what then the religious leaders would do. Now with the reward and punishment, see in different contexts and different types of rewards are given to our children. Not only the different contexts, but also based on the tradition in our home and our ability to what we can give actually. So different kinds of rewards are given to them. Punishment, generally we use verbal instruction as punishment. As I said, some examples like timeout or taking away privileges, verbal correction, and even physical correction. But whatever we do, either rewards or punishment, we have to understand our authority comes under the authority of God. Okay, that's a very vague, but whatever we do as parents or teachers or in the faith community, whatever reward, whatever punishment we give, it has to come under the authority that God has given us. So we have an authority over us, and our authority as pastors and teachers or parents always comes under the authority of God. With respect to children in India, we see we see that all throughout history of Christianity, especially in the last from the 20th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, churches have established. So we have a phrase called Palli Kudam. The school is called Palli Kudam. Palli is the church. So Palli Kudam, that now the understanding is that wherever there was a church, there was always a school. Churches have extended their care for the children through establishing schools, establishing hospitals, establishing higher educational institutions, establishing children's home. So I am not saying that church has done to the extent that church has there is no poverty in children or there is no social evil among children. Yes, it's there, but I believe that churches have done that, and even a lot of NGOs are working towards the spiritual formation of children. Para-church organizations are also there to have children, to teach children, and to take children out of child labor and various aspects. But the evil is so high, I really acknowledge that.
Maybe might not, because the children is they are the generation for church and the nation. So if the church not have attention for the children, I think maybe I hopeless too. So
I would differ from what you said. We don't see in today's understanding of children, we don't see children as the next generation in the church. We see children as the present generation. So they are already in the kingdom of God. So they are present generation, not the future.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful discussion. Like we have 4 more minutes If anyone have any last question, you can ask.
Okay. Can I engage you in some discussion about children, education, and environment? It's okay. I want to make use of the 4 last minutes to put some question to Mrs. Annie. I am thinking about these 3 subjects: children, environment, and education. And I do convince that since the beginning of age, the children must be educated to love the environment, have a responsibility to care for the animals and the plant and so forth. Yeah, I'm asking you 2 questions if you want. The first one, yeah, we believe that the Bible is indeed the source to raise up to educated children, to educate children of love for love the environment. Could you please what is that, give some concrete example from the Bible verses that can be used to become the foundation of teaching children to responsible for the environment? That is the first question. And the second question is, we have at least at present 2 kinds of environment. The first one is ecological environment, and the second one is digital environment. And the children is, yeah, something I can put it like is more prefer to digital environment. And how can we use the digital environment to lead the children from the beginning to love the environment and to responsibility for the animal and the plant? That is what I want to discuss with you.
I think
Thank
the
you
first
for
question you
attention.
asked, okay, thank you. The first question you asked was about some verses to show the environment in which we discipline children. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. Now, in Exodus, if you look at Genesis chapter 18, verses 18 to 19, we see God told Abraham to teach the children and his household by doing what is right and just. Doing what is right and just before God. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 following, we see that God instructs the people first to acknowledge God as one, and then love the God, your God, love their God with all their heart, mind, and soul. Then teach them. So the teaching is an overflow of the parents' love towards children, towards God. So they teach, it's an overflow of their love towards God. And in Proverbs, we see that the Lord disciplines the son whom he delights in. So love and discipline comes hand in hand in God's discipline to us. This particular reference is used in Hebrews, as I said before, in 12, to show, of course, we may err in disciplining children, human fathers, but it was reminded us how God disciplined his children in love. And then the 2 verses in Ephesians chapter 6 and Colossians chapter 3, where parents and others are encouraged not to embitter our children, not to discourage our children, but to train and instruct our children. I believe these are the words in which we see the discussion on environment. However, in the broader sense, we have seen how Lord disciplined Israel, people of Israel, in compassion. You know, in Hebrew, in Isaiah, there are many verses that how he doesn't completely destroy them or destroy them even now, but he did so with compassion and mercy. Okay, that's the first question. Is that
Can
okay?
can I make some remarks
have
about your
actually,
question?
we have time limit.
Okay.
We already crossed the time limit. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to give for the next presenter. Thank you all for the questions, and thank you, Professor, for the beautiful answers and the explanation. We enjoyed and we learned a lot from the paper. And thank you so much. And now I like to pass my timing to the next moderator, Dr. Bobby. I would like to invite him for next time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Miss
Smith.
Anna.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Annie and Gavin. Prof. Annie, thank you for your presentation, and Gavin as moderator. And we appreciate for your presentation, and please wait a moment for we share a certificate for Prof. Annie. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. In International Conference on Religion and Education, with the theme Revisiting Revolution Canon and Alliance for Social Justice. Okay, next session. Yeah, we will hear a presentation from Research Synergies Foundation, Bandung, Indonesia, by Dr. Hendrati Dwi Mulyaningsi. Dr. Hendrati, are you here? Dr. Hendrati?
Yeah, Dr. Bobby.
Yeah.
We will put the video presentation first while he will coming soon.
Okay, please, Dr. Isa.
Yeah, so let me share the video presentation. Just give me a second.
I have a problem with the speaker. I don't hear to the voice of the presenter.
Yes, Dr. Hendrati, are you here?
Halo, good
Ya,
afternoon, Bapak.
Miss Santi ya.
Yes, correct, Pak
Oke.
Bobby. Okay, Pak Bobby. So actually, Dr. Hendrati have unfortunately cannot make it. So on behalf of the Research Energy Foundation, allow me to representing the Research Energy
Oke.
Foundation to you.
Please.
Actually, yes, actually, Prof, we have concurrent international conference also parallel with the Universitas Islam Indonesia. So I'm still using the conference background, yeah. Let me change it first. It's still happening, Prof, in the Zoom platforms. Okay. All right. Okay, Prof. Maybe I will pass the floor to you to open first, perhaps.
Ya, silakan. Ya, please.
Okay. So I will deliver it in English, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the audience and for the invitations from the Sekolah Tinggi Teologi Moriah. So it is great honor for us on behalf of the Research Synergy Foundations to introduce our global research ecosystem. So this is important because Sekolah Tinggi Teologi Moriah also already become part of research ecosystem, yeah, and hopefully that all the audience here in the International Conference on Religion and Education also can be part of this research ecosystem, so you can take the benefit, yeah, from this ecosystem for your institutions and also for your academic or scholar career. Okay, allow me to share the screen. Okay, let me share the screen first. Yeah, I hope that everyone can see my screen right now. Yes, okay. Okay, so thank you so much once again for the opportunity from the organizing committee of this event. So this is important as we introduce our global research ecosystem introductions. But before that, allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Santi Rahmawati, or you can call me Santi, and I am one of the founder of the Research Energy Foundation and also the director of the Global Network Operations in Research Energy Foundations. Okay, so maybe some of you are not yet familiar with Research Energy Foundation or even just heard the Research Energy Foundation or RSF for the first time. So it is a great opportunity to introduce these platforms for all of the scholars in the world. Okay, so basically Research Energy Foundation is a digital social enterprise platforms that focus on developing a global research ecosystems toward the outstanding global scholars. So in here, we build a collaborative network among the researchers, lecturers, scholars, and also the practitioners globally for the realization of the knowledge accelerations and also can contribute more to society and also humanity. And actually, since our form is the social enterprise, so we are starting with the social problems or the challenge, particularly in higher education level. So relating with the research and also the publications. Because as we know, currently, many researchers, particularly in developing countries or perhaps in some of the ASEAN country or the Asia or maybe some also in the Africa, so we still have limited opportunity, yeah, in accessing the knowledge sharing medium and also the platforms to have a good reputable publications. And also sometimes we receive less or even no feedback on our writing, yeah, to enhance when they join the scientific forum, such as the international conference or any other scientific forum. And writing and publishing in high impact journals is sometimes also for some scholars can be discouraging. Why? Because there are still huge gap between the editorial requirement and also the author capacity, and they don't know how to do it to meet the editorial requirements. And last but not least, our challenge here is, of course, to managing our international journals. In here, I mean your university international journals, because once you have your own international journals, you need a comprehensive mechanism to accelerate the process so your journals can be indexed in the global reputable indexers, yeah, such as Scopus, Web of Science, or even in the open access journals, indexers such as the WAG and also Copernicus. By this challenge, we came with the solutions. We bring the value co-creations through the synergy and also the collaborations among all of our stakeholders and also the member of our global research ecosystems. By having this kind of synergy and also collaborations, we can generating the collaborative ideas among the members across countries. And luckily, with this kind of situations, when the pandemic strike us, so there are no border, yeah? There are no border in terms of the times, in terms of, like borderless. So we can enhance, we can leverage our impact, and also we can make more collaborative ideas to create a co-create value together to fulfill the unmet needs. And last, by this value, we hope that it can bring the impact, the social impact, particularly in enhancement in research and also publications. Since we are doing the collaborations and also the synergy, we are connecting people, not only people individually, but also the university or the institutions. That's why we lend in hand and come together to tackling the problems. And we will also accelerate the impact to our own, our organizations, and of course to the humanity, and also giving impact to the society. And this is the global research ecosystem that we built since 2017 until 2021. Yeah, this data is from 2017 until 2021. And currently in 2022, all these numbers is already increased, yeah. But this is to make you, all of the participants or the audience here in this forum can understand or get the bigger picture of our ecosystems. So why we have, or why we call it a research ecosystem? Because it consists of 4 support systems, yeah. We have the Scholar Pane here. Scholar Pane is actually our integrated conference management operating systems. So if all of you, or maybe some of you already familiar with the ADA system, like the Easy Chair, or maybe from the IEEE. So this Scholar Pane is we built by our own IT system, and it's already served the scholars across the more than 85 countries, yeah, more than 8,000 members already being involved in these systems. And this Scholar Pane particularly is the system for us to make it easier to conduct, to organize the international conferences in more effective and also efficient way. We already have that system, so we are not doing it manually. Yeah? So everything should be according to the system. So that's why we can make a lot of conference with a good output also. And before the pandemic struck us, our international conference actually operating in 15 countries, yeah, starting with Asia and also Australia. And starting next year, we will expand our network to Europe countries, because last 2 weeks, we just had finished our Europe survey. So we next year, we will have around 5 countries in Europe. So I also invite all of you to join our conference later on, yeah, in the next year. So, and then the second one is the reviewer track. So if all of you already aware about the Publons, the Publon is like the reviewer hub, yeah, reviewer hub. And in this reviewer track is also connecting reviewer of the scholars that wants to practice, that wants to actualize their scientific skills, yeah, that want to sharpen their critical thinking also in reviewing the paper. So we give them a forum, yeah, we give them a forum. They can also review a paper, or even the conference paper, or the journals paper, yeah, in this system. And in reviewer track, we are accommodating more than 1,000 field of studies. Yeah, so all of you also welcome to join to the reviewer track, to be the member or to be the community of the researcher worldwide. And next is our support system is the Research Synergy Institute. So Research Synergy Institute is basically our learning platforms. This is the enhancement platforms. As we know, once we are creating the Research Synergy Foundation, there are gaps. There are a gap because one of our stakeholders is also big publishers like the Taylor and Francis, Emerald, Springer. So they have a certain criteria or requirement. Meanwhile, the capacity of the author sometimes do not meet or not yet meet the requirement. So that's why in Research Synergy Institute, we create programs, such as the workshop, coaching, and also online webinars. And it's already involving by more than 14,000 participants, coming from across more than 800 university or institution around the globe. And last but not least is our own publisher. Our own publisher called the Research Synergy Press. In the Research Synergy Press, currently we have more than 23 indexed international conference proceeding, and it's still going. I mean, the number is still increasing. And then more than 18, I think currently it's more than 20, the international journals published by our own publisher, Research Synergy Press, in collaboration with the university and also the associations. And then we also have the gateway in Taylor and Francis group, the F1000 research. If perhaps some of you know about these platforms, the open science platform for F1000 research that already indexed in Scopus Q1 after the article passed the open peer review process. And we are having a very close and also strategic relationship, particularly with the Taylor and Francis group, which is considered to be the 5 big publishers in the world, and have a very good reputable in the scholarly world. So they also asked us to join to be one of the official affiliate in the Cogent Journal, which is already indexed in Scopus Q1 and Q2, and also Web of Science. So by having this support system, by having this ecosystem, we believe that if the scholars want to actualize, or if the university wants to increase, for example, their World University ranking, so you can use this ecosystem for your benefit, and we are happy to support you also, because we also have the other stakeholders, such as the publisher, and also the editor, and also the reviewer, and etc. So we can take benefit from each support system that we already built in 2017. And the total number of our members coming from this 4 support system is more than 20,000 around the globe. So it is also a good opportunity for all of you here that already attending in this international conference to be part of our ecosystem. Okay, and this is just the infographic from our last year activities. So actually during the pandemic, although we shift our program through the virtual, but it is really boosting our coverage area. So although the pandemic is still happening, but we are not stopped in making the scientific forum, making the learning, and also the publishing the article of your the scholarly work. Okay, and this is the support system. And actually this is the current or this year, actually we have some of them is already passed, but this one is will be in December, if I'm not mistaken. And there are also another conference partner here. We still have around six more conference in this year, and you can check at our website researchsynergy.org later on for more informations. And this is the example of our just last 2 weeks, or around last 2 weeks, our conference in Istanbul, Turkey, after the pandemic, and now we are already being offline again. So we will have the conference in several countries in the world, including next year is in Jeddah also, for the and plus for the Umrah tour and also and so on. And this one is the Chulalongkorn University. And we are holding this conference with the Chulalongkorn University in 15 and 18 December. And for particularly this conference, we get the support from the Chulalongkorn University. So if you are interested to join or to submit your paper here, there will be free accommodation during your stay in Bangkok. Okay. And this is the review process or the scientific review that we apply in every of our scientific forum. So actually we do really serious about taking care your paper to be properly being reviewed in the scientific process, because it will be determined how reputable the scientific forum is. So there are at least two steps, the plagiarism checking and also the content checking. Okay, and this is one of the productivity bottleneck, as I mentioned before, why Research Synergy Institute here or our learning platform here is because there is a gap. There is a gap. And this is our last August program, and also our official launching with the Kojun Journal, Stella and Francis. And we invite particularly for the university and also association in Indonesia, because this is also concurrently in our way to commemorate and also give contributions to the Indonesian countries. Okay, this is the example of how we manage our journals under our own publisher, which called the Research Synergy Press. So all of our Research Synergy Press journals, we are targeting for the third year of publication, we will submit it to the Scopus for the indexations. So since year 1 until year 2, we have the clear path or roadmap how to manage our journals. And this is the example of our international journals that already published. And 4 of it, the IJMES, IJTAISE, IJYC, and IJRSE is under the Scopus evaluations. Hope the result will be good, and will be successfully indexed by the Scopus itself. This is already submitted. Okay, and this is the international proceedings. And this is also the example how we do the call for papers to all of the journals, the journals under the Research Synergy Press. And this one is important also for me to share to you here that we are the official gateway in F1000 research, and it has been indexed in Scopus Q1. And this F1000 research is a very innovative open access publishing platforms, because their time of publications is faster compared to the conventional journals. If you wish to know more about these platforms, do let me know. So because me, Dr. Hendrati, and also Miss Annie here as the gateway advisor of the LSF gateway. And currently we already published around 171 articles already published in our gateway. And this is the technical step how to submit to our gateway. This is the example, because there will be an open peer review, like this, to determine that your article already passed the open peer review process. Okay, and our gateway is actually equal in F1000 research, equal with the worldwide organization, well-known organization. As you can see here, we have the European Commissions, we have the Bill and Melinda Gates, and Research Synergy is one of them. Okay, and the newest one is the collaborations with the Kojun Open Access Journal, Taylor and Francis. And this Kojun journals is actually, all of them is already indexed in Scopus, and also Web of Science, So this, and also they have several series of disciplines starting from business, economy management, or art and humanities, or even the social science and psychology. So they have, so they are the multidisciplinary series actually for the open access journal. But the model of the publishing model is different with F1000. In F1000, the review will be open, but in here, in Kojun Open Access Journal, the review will apply the double-blind peer review process, So the modeling of the publishing modeling is different between the F1000 and also the Cogent open access journal, although both of them are open access. Yeah, means everyone can access our article and also freely, anytime, anywhere. No need to pay anything as the reader read the article. Yeah. Okay. And then this is just in the August program that I shared before. And this is the way how we are managing our gateway and also our relationship with the Taylor and Francis. So each month here we have the editorial meeting. Yeah, the editorial meeting between us as the advisor of the F1000 and also the Cogent journals. And this is the top leader of the Taylor and Francis. Yeah, this is the CEO. Yeah, the CEO of F1000. And these are the editorial team that are checking the paper. Yeah. So they report to us regarding the progress of the paper that's submitting to our gateway. And this one is the Taylor and Francis Managing Asia Pacific Director. Yeah. And this one also is one of the prominent person in Taylor and Francis. So we do really taking care seriously about how the scientific process that author has already give to our program, for example, for the conference, for the coaching, or even for the workshops. Okay, and this is our partner. Actually, this is not yet updated. Yeah, I do apologize on that. Actually, there are many new partners, yeah, listed in here. But if you wish to know more, just let us know so I can inform you more detail about us. So it's coming from the university, not only in Indonesia, but also from other countries, yeah, such as Philippines, Malaysia, and also there are some Australia and Dubai. So many university and also research communities also, and also associations. Yeah. Okay. So I think this is, since the time is very limited, I'm not going go deeper into this difference about the open science and the open access. But the point is for this global research ecosystem, what I want to emphasize is, since you already know about the research synergy foundations, so we can do more collaborations. Yeah, that by having this collaboration, it will ease. Yeah, it will ease your institutions to achieve your research and also publications target, yeah, your target or your strategic target that the university or the institution wants to achieve. I think that's the informations that I can give. Perhaps we have a few minutes if there are some questions. Also, I will be so happy to answer your question or query. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So I will pass again to Pak Bobby if there are questions, perhaps.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Santi. Dear participant, please, if you have some question to research synergy, yeah, the research synergy open to enrichment our research in our institution, our seminary, school, and we hope we can get to help. Any question? Okay.
It's okay, Pak. Okay.
Pak Yusa, please.
Okay, thank you, Santi. So anyone who like to connect with Synergy, there is a website, maybe Santi.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me drop the website address in the Zoom chat box ya, Pak ya.
Okay.
And also the link, perhaps since the video earlier, the sound is not coming, and so I will pass also the links to our profile. So perhaps you can see more detail, yeah, in the YouTube profile also, yeah. Because when we are explaining too many things that we want to share to all of the audience here, but unfortunately, I know the committee already have very tight schedule, ya, Pak, ya. So I try to make it fast, yeah, for the explaining and everything. I do apologize if there is so hurry, yeah, in my explanations, yeah. Okay.
Okay, once again, thank you, Bu Santi, for the sharing about the Research Synergy Foundation. Anyone who would like to connect or get more information, there is a link in the chat box, but the website and then the YouTube. I think this is a great research for the theological school or the university. So just check it out and make sure can connect or can connect with Bu Santi. So once again, Bu Santi, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Santi.
Thank you so much, Pak Yusak, Pak Bobi, and all of the committee for spending your time in your conference to let us introduce our global research ecosystem that hopefully we can bring benefit, ya Pak, ya. We can give benefits to your institutions also. So good luck on the conference. So have a great day. And thank you so much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Permission to leave. Thank you, Pak Yusak, Pak Bobi.
Bu Santi.
Thank you.
So I think we have a great afternoon with Annie George, PhD, Dr. Annie George, talk about the education, and yeah, we appreciate and we are thank you for Annie George from Faith Theological Seminary, India, who shared the children education to us. So we continue with our schedule right now. Right now we have a research forum, which mean we are breaking into two groups. One group is theology and the other group is education. So after this, we are breaking into two groups. So if you are interested, go to the theology. So you can go to theology group. And then if you are interested into education, so you can go to the education. So we give this option to you, whatever you like. If you like to join to a group theology or group education, so you can choose the group. And then after you choose the group with one theology or education, you join the group. And then after that, from the group theology and education, they will continue on the presentation with the presenter that already with us right now. So go ahead, everyone. You can choose the group which one you like to go, education or going to the theology. So you need to choose between both group, theology or education. The option is with you right now to choose which one, theology or education.
Brother Yusak, can you hear me, Brother Yusak?
Yes. Is it Andrew?
Where should I go?
The theology.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. So let me read just it. So there is two groups. One is in the education. The group theology will be Andrew Ong from Trinity Theological College, Singapore, and then Devina Benlin Oswan. This will be the presenter in the theology group, and then Johnson Maskuti, United Theological College, India, and then Dr. Ebenezer Nuban Timo, Universitas Kristen Arta Wacana. So this will be in the theology group, with the facilitator will be with Dr. Ebenezer. And then the second group, the theology, this will be with Dr. Pamela Enraheng from Tarumanegara, Universitas Tarumanegara. And then Rolina Esther Kauna, Institut Agama dari Manado, lalu Marudut Simanjuntak, dan Dr. Gideon dari STT from STT Moriah, and then Dr. Sandi Irawan, I think Institut Agama Kristen Negeri Tarutung, Indonesia. So that's the group, the group education. So you need to choose theology and then education option with you. So there is a time for choose is about 5 minutes. So you need to choose the group, which one do you like? And there is a time you need to choose, that's maximum is 5 minutes. You need to choose one of the group. If not, you will go to either group without option. So welcome to the forum, research forum group discussion.